to recognise this expression that comes over a man's face when a female comedian walks on. Comparison, the look that comes over a woman's face when she goes for a smear test and a male doctor walks in. It's kind of like a mixture of disappointment and dread. Come on, it's 2016. It's time we got over this prejudice. Yes. Yes, male doctors can be funny. I met up with an old friend the other day and I told him I'd started doing stand-up. And his eyes widened and his jaw dropped and he said, "I'm sorry if I seem so shocked, Sarah, but in all the years I've known you, I've never considered you to be funny." So I said, "That's all right, Andy. Until you became an estate agent, I never considered you to be a smug, lying wanker." But I live in Brighton, but as Louis said, I'm from Essex. My reputation precedes me. But unfortunately, I had to claim political asylum a few years ago after being terrorised by orange people with big fake fingernails. A lot of people say I don't sound like I'm from Essex. I love it when people say that. It makes me really happy. I get all excited. I'm like, "Oh, thanks, babes." But the reason I don't sound like I'm from Essex is because I went to private school. Sorry. But private school in Essex. Behind our bike sheds, there were mattresses with Egyptian cotton sheets. There were complimentary condoms in the toilets with flavours like Malibu and Coke, Thunderbird and Chardonnay. And work experience was a 6-week placement at Ann Summers. I was just at primary school. I lost my virginity to a guy I met on the school French exchange. Afterwards, I asked him how it was for him. My parents brought me up properly. And get this, it was so romantic, he actually recited some French poetry to me. I remember it to this day. It went, "Un trou, c'est un trou. Ma bite n'a pas d'oeil." I looked it up when I got in and it meant, "A hole's a hole. My dick doesn't have eyes." But surprisingly, my penchant for French men continued, and a couple of years later I dated another French guy. This one referred to his penis as a baguette magique. In fact, it was so magic it made my libido completely disappear. But my mum told me you have to kiss a lot of frogs before you meet your prince. Unfortunately, that was the only thing she was ever wrong about, as I'm currently engaged to a Frenchman. I also have a French bulldog called Edith, after the singer Edith Piaf. She wee-wees all over the house, then doesn't regret it. But I like to think of myself as sexually open-minded. I've tried threesomes. I've experimented with the same sex. It's all gone quiet. It's Brighton, guys. I've even been to a fetish party wearing my dog-studded collar and... No, that was it. But there's one thing I've just never been able to bring myself to do, and just when it gets to it, I just freeze. And that thing, it's eating a banana in public. I don't know if any of you other women get this, but I've always thought that if a man sees me eating a banana, he'll automatically imagine that the banana's a penis. Yeah, thank you. Sorry guys, you probably wouldn't, would you? You'd probably just think, now there's a woman with healthy potassium levels. But my mum phoned me the other day and she said, "Babes," she didn't go to private school. She said, "Babes, your father and I are wondering if you and Laurent have started trying for a baby." Trying? I mean, what did she expect me to say? "Oh, yeah, Mum. Yeah, we're shagging like rabbits. In fact, I'd love to stop and chat, but day 10, got to get in the bedroom for an extra big roasting." Of course, I didn't say that. I didn't say that because we're not trying. Well, we are trying. We're trying not to have a baby. We're trying really hard not to fuck up the last 20 or so years we've got left before we get riddled with cancer or dementia with some whining, time-consuming, life and soul-sucking little brats. But when I do dare to tell people I don't want children, they look at me like I've got some rare genetic disease. You know, women, we're not supposed to say we don't want children. No, it's like a man saying he doesn't want a blowjob. People just can't compute it. But why, they say, why don't you want to have a baby? And it's at this point I usually get out my list. Reasons I don't want to have a baby. Morning sickness, stretch marks, hemorrhoids, getting fat, maternity clothes, NCT classes, labour, childbirth, the afterbirth, vaginal tearing. Vomit, nappies, diarrhea, screaming, breastfeeding, breast pumps, mastitis, no sleep, no sex, no money, not being able to go out when I want, do what I want, see who I want, when I want, eat what I want, when I want, not being able to shut the bathroom door or bath or pee in peace. Peppa Pig on repeat. Nursery rhymes, soft play centres, children's parties, other parents, public tantrums, private tantrums, terrible twos, tiresome threes, fearsome fours, feisty fives, sassy sixes, insanity sevens, evil eights, nightmare nines, terrifying tens. Totally attitude teens. 18 and I'm an adult now and I'm going to fuck with your head by doing all the things you did when you were my age and you'll know I'm doing them even though I'm going to lie and say I'm not. But the main reason I don't want to have a baby is because I don't like children. Nice to see so many parents could get babysitters tonight. But, you know, there's nothing wrong with not liking children. It's not compulsory. Some people don't like rats or wasps. I don't like children. You know, not liking children, it doesn't make me evil. It's not like I'd wish them any harm or anything. Okay, there was this one kid, this boy of about 4 or 5, and he was sat behind me on a flight from London to Sydney last year. And as soon as he got on, he started kicking the back of my seat. And this went on, and eventually I turned around to say something to his mum, but she was asleep, and I thought, oh, I can't wake her up. She needs as much respite as she can get from this little shit. So I thought, oh, I know what I'll do. So I got out my iPad, and I went and knelt down next to him. And in a calm and friendly voice, I asked him if he'd ever heard of 9/11. And surprisingly, he hadn't. So I explained that it was this terrible, terrible time that passengers took over 2 aeroplanes and flew them into the top of a very tall building, and the building collapsed and everybody on the plane died. And it's at this point I showed him some images of the disaster on my iPad, because I've heard that children learn better when there's visual information provided as well. And so while he's taking all this in, I ask him if he wants to know why the passengers did such a terrible, terrible thing. And he said, yes, why? So I explained that it was because they were very, very angry. Because there was a little boy sat behind them who kept kicking the back of their chair. I had a peaceful flight, the kid learned something about history, everyone's a winner. I'm never quite sure how that's going to go down. I don't like children, but I do love dogs, and I've got a dog of my own, and I've had her since she's a puppy. And I can safely say that that first year of her life was the closest I will ever come to experiencing postnatal depression. She was such a bitch. She didn't want cuddles, she didn't want to play, she just wanted two things: to eat and to destroy. And I'm not talking your usual puppy chew fest. No, this was calculated, targeted, drone-like destruction. No, she ignored my cheap Primark shoes and headed straight for my prize Kurt Geiger wedgies. She ignored my tatty M&S underwear and ripped up my luxury lace lingerie. She bypassed my Poundland sunglasses but chewed my aviator Ray-Bans to within an inch of their life. She was like the Anna Wintour of the canine world, a bitch with fashion sense. You know, her behaviour, it really started to get me down, and I tried everything to change it. I tried exercise, I tried diet, I even tried medication, but nothing worked for me. I still felt depressed. But she grew out of it, and now Edith, she's the love of my life. And people say to me, Sarah, you treat that dog like she's your child. They've got a point. I make her sleep on the floor, feed her scraps from the table and shut her in the garden when she's bad. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd love to stop and chat, but I'm due at my babysitting job in 10 minutes.